In every cycle of energy, a portion of it is lost. As an animal eats, as an ice cube melts, as we move, energy is lost. In each iteration of energy transference, less and less energy is transferred. But what if we could keep that energy, that lost momentum? For generations, our clockwork mages have tuned the spinning gears of our planet, refining our automatons to lose less energy per iteration, and only now have they achieved every single horologist's dream. An automaton with an energy system of 100% efficiency. I present to you Project Kinetic. Project Kinetic is a 3D orbital camera brawler where the player's kinetic energy from movement is stored and can be used to enhance movement and activate abilities. A third-person camera gives the player a large field of view of their surroundings to aid them in navigating through combat and the world at a breakneck pace. The player takes control of a clockwork automaton and is sent to various locations in a clockpunk world to complete maintenance tasks to prevent a series of cascading failures that could disrupt the world as they know it. Each location, or gear, is a large enclosed area within which the player will move, fight, and obtain skills as they complete their maintenance tasks. These maintenance tasks consist of varied gameplay for the player to complete, from solving puzzles to wind mechanisms and cleanse rust, to fighting corrupted automata to protect the citizens and keep the gears safe. The only necessary criteria to complete a gear is the main objective. All side objectives, enemies, and challenges can be bypassed unless they are part of the main objective. To navigate each gear, the player has a wide array of movement options available to them. In addition to standard running and jumping, the player can also slide. For combat, the player will have a few weapons that they can choose from to perform short attack combos. Combat abilities that the player can activate include a large area of effect damage ability, a self-heal, various weapon-based abilities, and more. This large array of abilities and limited standard attacks enforces the player to rely on abilities more, which in turn keeps them moving. The player will face two types of enemies, a worker automaton and a fabrication plant automaton. The worker will be a common mob enemy that roams the gear, while the plant is a rarer, larger, stronger automaton that, if left alone, continuously produces workers. Upon completion, these challenges will grant the player skill points that they can use to obtain new abilities, increasing their offensive capabilities and their options of how to fight. Player agency is all in how they choose to approach a gear. Upon beginning the level, the player can choose what they want to focus on first: the numerous plants around the gear to lessen enemy numbers, the challenges to increase their combat effectiveness, or objectives to complete the level before plants produce enough workers to really be a threat. Player agency for combat is really dependent on how fast they want to get things done. Let's say a plant is surrounded by workers and is currently producing more. The player can rush in and focus the plant first, but takes the risk of using their energy to kill it and having none to escape the circle of workers they find themselves in. Alternatively, the player can take down a few workers and retreat to keep their energy up and lessen the risk of taking damage. We took Vanquish as a reference for a focus on movement during combat. Our game differs in that Vanquish has the player move then stop, while ours tries to keep the player constantly moving. In terms of risk mitigation, if after our initial playtesting session we are unable to have fabrication plants produce enough enemies that can adapt well in an open world environment, we'll change our level design to be linear to compensate for the lack of open world functionality and cover any holes a simpler AI structure will have. Another possible risk with our current pitch is the inclusion of a challenge system. Having a separate large system to earn skill points can be mitigated by just cutting the system altogether, and having the player earn skill points through the main objective, which is completing a gear. We would fall back on this plan B if this system is not perfected after the initial prototype.